Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Rune Words. Today we're going to be looking at a very interesting rune word. And I know I say that a lot, but this particular one is quite interesting. This one has a lot of on-striking effects, and this makes it quite useful for a wide variety of characters, including sorceress, as well as non-sorceress characters. And the main characteristic of this item is not specifically the physical damage, it is the elemental damage. So without further ado, we have Voice of Reason. Voice of Reason is a level 43 requirement item, but most people are going to make this in an item that suits their particular character. So if you are for instance, a Kixin who doesn't necessarily care about the damage on the weapon, you are going to be putting this in a lower requirement item, so you don't have to worry about the stats. Whereas if you are using this to actually deal damage, like maybe you're a Zeal Paladin or something like that, you probably want to use this in a Phase Blade or maybe an item that is going to be a little bit more useful to your character. Now, this is only capable of being created in swords and maces, so do keep that in mind. And without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, right off the bat, you see there 15% chance to cast level 13 Frozen Orb on striking. And level 13 Frozen Orb is a pretty massive amount of damage. And I'd like to take you over to the Wikipedia page here, and we're going to take a look at the damage of Frozen Orb at level 13, and we're going to calculate out how much damage that could possibly be. So we go over to Frozen Orb, and we go down to the stats. You'll see that at level 13, it does 170 to 175 damage per bolt, right? And Frozen Orb has a lot of bolts, so we're going to have to multiply that out. And I think I remember looking this up one time before, but let me just double check. Alright, so it looks like about 42 bolts come out of the orb, and on average, you can generally, if you're very good at targeting, you can make sure you hit a monster with around 20 to like 27 bolts per attack. So let's do 26 bolts, and we'll multiply this out. So let's take an average of level 13, which is going to be 172. So 172 times 26 bolts is the equivalent of 4,472 damage. So as you can imagine, that is a rather beefy amount of cold damage. But we're not done. So we also have another effect. We have level 20 Ice Blast on striking. Now, Ice Blast is another interesting effect, and it's an 18% chance. So we got a 15% chance for Frozen Orb and an 18% chance for Ice Blast. These are two amazing abilities. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at Ice Blast. So if we go down to Ice Blast, we'll see that Ice Blast is a 273 to 287 damage, and it's only one attack. So not as good as Frozen Orb, but wait, it freezes the target. So we have a 6.8 second freeze effect, which is going to hold the target still and allow you to pummel the crap out of them. So we've got two very nice effects here, which are going to do a pretty massive amount of damage. We've got 4,472 on average with the Frozen Orb if you're hitting them with the bulk of the attack. It's an AoE attack, so it's going to be hitting more than just one target. And then we've also got the 200 and let's say 280 damage from the Ice Blast, which is 4,752 damage, right? That's a pretty nifty amount of damage. Well, now here's the thing. If you use this on a sorceress, you're also going to get synergy bonuses for all these effects. So Frozen Orb gains synergies from Ice Bolt, which is 1% per level, or 2% per level. So you're looking at a total of 40% additional damage there if you had that built. And then Ice Blast has a lot of synergies from multiple different effects, as well as a 10% per freeze level per level, freeze length per level. I'm tongue-tied today. From Glacial Spike. So if you build Glacial Spike, you'll get additional freeze length on Ice Blast, which means it'll last a lot longer than 6.8 seconds. And the damage that you can get Ice Blast up to if you have full synergies is somewhere around, I think it's like 2,000 damage. So you're looking at some pretty intense damage if you were to use this on a sorceress, but you're also looking at pretty intense damage if you use this on a non-sorceress, and that is the beauty of this particular item. We also have 52 attack rating, which is just a flat amount. So if you're going to use this on a character that needs attack rating, it's nice to have the flat amount. A lot of the times you have tons of plus percentages, but no actual attack rating coming from any sources. And plus flat amounts can actually be worth a ton. Don't look at that 50 attack rating and think it's nothing, because if you're running enchant, which is going to give you a rather large attack rating bonus of 227%, that 50 is going to be multiplied. If you're running Zeal, which is giving you a 50% attack rating bonus, that's going to be another multiplication. If you have a weapon on that's giving you attack rating, or armor, or if you have any other type of plus percentage, like fanaticism to attack rating, things like that, those are all going to multiply that 50, and it's going to be worth a lot more than you think. We also have 220 to 350% damage to demons, and 355 to 375 damage to undead, which is going to function exactly the same way that Might does. So when you have a Might aura on you, it's going to increase your damage as off-weapon ED, and these will also function as off-weapon ED. They're not quite as powerful as on-weapon ED, so if this weapon was to have like 400% on-weapon ED, it would trump these in a heartbeat. But this is still additional damage that's coming in, and it's definitely nice to have. Keep in mind, though, that this only affects your physical damage. We also have 50 attack rating to undead, and we have 100 to 220 cold damage, which is just a nice additional boost of cold damage on top of all the cold damage we've already got. I mean, we're already up to 4,752 cold damage. We might as well just go ahead and plink on 165 average. So we're looking at 4,917 cold damage so far. We also have negative 24% enemy cold resistance. So not only does it give you a massive amount of cold damage, it's also giving you negative to the enemy's cold resistance to increase the amount of damage that you're doing. So if you can imagine, this weapon is very, very powerful to kill anything that's not cold immune. We also have plus 10 to Dexterity, which is going to be nice to increase your attack rating as well as to beef up your block chance. We have Cannot Be Frozen, which is always nice to have on an item because that means you don't have to get it on something else. You generally always want to have Cannot Be Frozen on an item, and so having Cannot Be Frozen on your weapon is going to free up another slot somewhere else. We have 75% extra gold for monsters, which is always nice to have, and plus 1 to Light Radius. So a very interesting weapon all around, and we have to talk about the uses for this weapon because it does have a lot of uses. Any character that can get use from having a weapon that does not do massive amounts of damage, but procs a massive amount of times, can get a really, really good use out of this. One character in particular that has a very, very fun time with this particular weapon is a kick assassin. And I do have an assassin around here somewhere. I have massive numbers of characters here. You know, don't laugh at all my massive numbers of characters. Here we go. So Natalia. Let's take a look at Natalia. Natalia Set, that is. And Natalia can take the voice of reason, and she can put this on her character. And the very interesting thing about putting this on a assassin is that they can use their kick ability to proc the effect a massive number of times. And unfortunately, I did not give her any kick skills, did I? I'm pretty sure I have another assassin. We'll go to the other assassin. Right, so here we are on my test assassin. I forgot I had her. My test assassin is going to be wielding our voice of reason, and she is going to be using any number of attacks. The one that people really use this for is the kick sim. So our best one here is to grab, I believe it's Dragon Tail? Yes, Dragon Tail, I believe, is the one that normally go with. Let me use Burst of Speed here so I can get around a little bit faster, shall we? That was not Burst of Speed. And as you can see, there's my my Ice Blast came out, which is definitely nice. Let's go to some monsters who are a little bit harder, shall we? I forgot the damage on this girl. It's a little high. And this is only Nightmare difficulty. Actually, let's go to Hell difficulty. How about that? To Hell difficulty. I didn't mean to go to Nightmare. That should do it. And let's go somewhere where I know there's not a whole lot of cold immunes. Arcane Sanctuary sounds good. There are some cold immunes here, but there's also a lot of fire immunes. As you can see, there we've got our beautiful frozen orb procs, as well as our freezing procs. And this can be procced other ways, too. So, for instance, if I was a Blade Fury Assassin, which those guys are immune to cold, so let's not go play with the cold immunes. As you can see, even with something like Blade Fury, I can still proc the effect. I happen to have been making a Blade Fury Assassin recently, and having the massive number of procs that this particular item is capable of would definitely be something that I could take advantage of. Of course, I'm missing a lot, and this is the important thing about an on-striking item, is that on-striking items do require you to actually make a connecting hit. So do keep that in mind. If you have an item that is on attack does not require a connecting hit, and unfortunately on attack does not work with certain things. Like, for instance, it does not work with Blade Fury, so keep that in mind. All in all, this is a very interesting item, a very cheap item, and something that you can use to get yourself a high amount of cold damage on a character who otherwise wouldn't normally have it. If you were a Zeal Paladin, if you were a Kick Assassin, if you were a Fury Druid, or a Frenzy Barbarian, this could all come in handy, specifically just for having the ability to spam a massive amount of cold damage on a target. I don't know specifically all of the builds that you can use this on, but I can definitely see that Cannot Be Frozen, along with the massive cold damage, as being an advantage. To get the procs to go off as much as possible, you would want something that, number one, can hit the target, and number two, hits the target very quickly. That's why a Frenzy Barbarian comes in mind, because a Frenzy Barbarian can hit really, really fast. That's what they're good at. Zeal Paladins can do the same thing. They hit extremely fast. That's what they're good at. Kicksins hit extremely fast. That's what they're good at. You know, and if you use this on a Blade Fury Assassin, you could also attack from range and apply the effects without having to worry too much about being in there and fighting. And the damage to demons, the damage to undead, all that stuff is going to assist your physical damage side of things. And the negative 24% enemy cold resistance is definitely going to come in handy on a non-sorceress. However, on a sorceress, because you've got that really awesome cold mastery, if you were to build this, it wouldn't be as great as an advantage, because cold mastery is just so awesome on the sorceress. If it were something like negative lightning or negative fire resistance, it'd be more useful on a sorceress, because the cold mastery works differently than the lightning and the fire mastery. And I'm actually thinking about making one of these for my my Blade Fury Assassin now. It would definitely be nice to have one of these on swap for those times when my physical damage is not quite cutting it, and I could whip out a little bit of cold damage to finish off a target. Anyway, as always, I do hope that you enjoy these videos, and thanks for watching, and keep watching.